Hi, my name is Ben Sanford. I'm the founder of Tribal Edge Primal Arts Training Center and the lead guide of the Journey program. I'm excited that you stopped by to listen a little bit about what we got going on here. I'm going to be sharing with you a story about a program we're offering. This is actually the first first evening of it, but it's a program I've been running for the last 10 years or so, and I have to say it's been the most powerful part of my life, and it's really brings together everything that we have to offer here at Tribal Edge. So it's always exciting for me to be in this program, and this year, due to the constraints of the pandemic and many other challenges that brings up, we are moving online, and which is kind of cool. I've been wanting to run a version of this program online for a long time. So tonight I'm going to share a little bit about what the program involves, who it might be for, and just kind of give you a tour of what we call the journey. So first of all, the version I'm going to offer this year is called the Journey Prime, and it's a kind of a minimal version of the program. It's very doable and doesn't require a lot of commitment. The program exists through training in a group format, an individual format, and also one-on-one with me. And so typically, I'm going to kind of explain our normal journey program, and I'll explain some of the differences. So basically, we meet generally we meet every Monday from 5 to 8. Sometimes some years the time has changed, but anyway, we do an evening session, and that's what we call, that's the part of the program we actually refer to. That's the class that's called the Journey. And the Journey is the part of the training that weaves together a long story throughout a whole year. So as we're traveling together through the process of training as a group of people over the period of a year, we get really close and we make a lot of discoveries and experience a lot of transformation. And the Journey, the Monday night program class, is kind of the thread that ties it all together and makes it a seamless experience. So besides the Journey, we also have different training elements. So one of those is called the Primal Labs. And the Primal Labs are a 2 to 3 hour segment of what we call dirt time, essentially, which is kind of getting your hands on projects and learning the primal skills directly. And so we have three different labs, three different focuses in the labs. One is called the Body Lab. It's focusing on your awareness, conditioning, and movement. We also get into some health and wellness stuff there. It's a lot of fun. The second lab is called the Earth Lab, and that is where we work on primitive survival skills, the skills of tracking and living with the earth. And then we have Soul Lab, which is it's a little more philosophical and deals with basically, I guess, what you could call the spiritual level of what we do. So, and kind of the ethical level. So it's a subtle class and has a lot to do with awareness, caretaking the planet, healing, and work and interpersonal group dynamics and stuff like that. So those are our 3 lab courses. Besides that, we have our core curriculum, which is each month we have a focus, and the core curriculum is designed around the seasons, and each month we have a theme. This month, the starting month of the Journey is tracking, for example, and each class kind of seamlessly flows into the next month. It flows in a little bit deeper and deeper as we get into a theme, and we move around the seasons, we move around the year, and the core classes are a day-long workshop style class, which I'm also going to be doing online. a day long meeting, like 8 hours. Online, they turn out to be about 5 hours, 5 or 6 hours. So, but the core classes really are the seed for the whole month's training. In other words, we kind of unpack that theme all month. And then by the time we've unpacked it, it kind of weaves into the next month. So there's 12 core classes. And they're typically on Saturdays, the first Saturday of every month, and then we expand on those. So there's also a element of personal training. So you get to do private training with me, where we do a specific coaching approach that integrates the journey into your life and kind of custom builds it so that you have a useful, relevant experience for whatever you're focused on in your life. So that's kind of a little bit of how what the journey consists of. Besides that, there's a lot of assignments and projects and practices and things to bring into your life. So it really creates like a rich, ongoing experience. So you don't feel like these big chunks of time in between. It feels like you're literally on a journey for a whole year. So now the way it's set up this year is the journey will basically be, you'll be able to start it whenever you want, which is different. Usually we've only had one starting point and one ending point, but being that it's online, it's going to be pre-recorded and you can do it whenever you want. The other side of that too is that you can, I'll have a group coaching call. So we have a period where we can check in, go over some questions and answers, and just have a conversation about how it's going. This ends up being one of the most cherished parts of the program, is our check-in, actually. So being that the class is online, I'm going to do those check-ins as a live stream, probably Zoom call, and run the class like that. So that'll be once a month. And so, all together, that's kind of how the course is laid out. The process itself leads to this transformative, ongoing, life-changing experience that's really hard to describe in a way. It kind of sneaks up on you. It might start out kind of superficial. You might feel like you're just doing this program and you're coming to some classes, and then after a while you start to catch on that it's leading you through life and seeing through certain perspectives. In fact, I call them primal perspectives, because they are, a lot of the work we do ends up being centered around human nature connection. So, and human nature awareness. So human nature, meaning human and nature, but also your own human nature. So there's a lot of, even though the skills are physical, doable skills, there's a lot of reflection in these skills as they kind of end up becoming metaphors for your life, and they end up showing you a little bit more about who you are. So part of the journey process is not just doing the skills and doing the practices, but looking at how you're journeying and noticing how you notice. So there's kind of this mindfulness aspect, or this metacognitive layer to the process, which ends up being really powerful, and so it's built in a way that you'll kind of naturally be led to that kind of awareness, and you don't even really have to look for it. Although if you do choose to play, that's how I refer to it, like it's a big game, it will be much, much richer. So this is a participatory process. So it's something that you actually have to go get. It's not going to just happen. It will kind of happen actually on its own, but it will be obviously powerful for you if you participate. and kind of to the level you want to participate. So there's no set way to do the program. In fact, some people do it a number of times. I've had people do it, I think, like 4 or 5 times, which means like 4 or 5 years. So, and it's not because, it didn't work. It's because they wanted to get a deeper layer of it. So there's many layers of the training available too. And that said, it's also part of the journey is part of our instructor training for Tribal Edge. So we have an option after you've done the journey of becoming an apprentice, if it's a good fit, and going through the program again with a slightly different perspective and a little bit deeper training. And in fact, we keep doing that over time. And basically that is our instructor training. So it's something that strangely gives back over time and shifts in perspective and shifts in meaning and shifts in value the more you do it. So I've done it 10 times at this point, and I keep getting more and more out of the process. So I think the fascinating question really is why is that so? Why does it keep shifting, and why does it have all these layers, and how does that work? And part of that is due to what we're really studying kind of at the corner from all of these different perspectives that we take in all these different classes that we're taking or doing. What we're really looking at is mystery. And that's the one thing that I think we can agree that is true, is that everything is mystery to some degree. Almost everything is mystery, because we may have some little corner of the universe that's not necessarily mysterious to you, such as your own little life. However, if you really look, even at your own life, even at your own self, there's layers and layers, and there's like dimensions and all of these ways that you still don't even know who you are or what life's about. Even the things you've taken for granted, the people your relationships, and the skills and your interests, all of these things can be taken to a unimaginable depth, because they're all basically infinite in nature. So what we do is, in the journey itself is really about this journeying into mystery and who we're being in that process and how we handle mystery. So, in that way, this journey is relevant to all areas of life, because essentially, like I was just saying, everything is mystery. So one thing you're going to encounter in life is unknown, and the journey process allows you to become more comfortable with, or maybe even benefit in the presence of the unknown. So, what we explore in the process is through all these different skills, and the skills reveal these things to us, and we reveal them if we look at we reveal them to ourselves when we look at ourselves deep enough. But what we focus on, there's a few P's here, are the principles, the process, and the practices of the primal experience. So by primal, I'm referring to the absolute core, essential, most important, fundamentally universal kind of essence of life and of you, or whatever you're focusing on. So if you're looking at, your life in a primal way, you're going to kind of peer at it from a perspective that goes all the way through all of the different expressions of your life and looks at the pure principles, the things that are the same throughout every condition and every context of your life. They're the things that are universal and the things that are just the most real and the most true. And these are the things that generally when we really think about it, end up being really important to us. So The other layer of the journey that studying journey brings us is awareness of process and making contact with process. So, much of our lives in our dominant society is not very mindful of process. It doesn't have a lot of use for process. In fact, it kind of just wants to be there already. We just want the end state or the end goal, and we don't want to have to really deal with all the steps. If we could, we just cut right to the end. And journey, just by nature, kind of suggests process. It's one step at a time, and going through this eventual multi-landscaped or multi-featured landscape. It's not like every stage of the journey is the same. No part of any process, real process, is the same. If you think about even your own life growing up, you started out as this newborn, helpless, vulnerable creature full of potential, and then became a child, and then became an adult, or young adult, then adult, right? And every stage of the process, there were some things that were the same, and there were a lot of things that were changing, and it was through that process and the principles at work in the process that caused you to grow and transform and become who you are in this moment. So, there's no way we can really get around process. Not that we'd want to, by the way. It's more about honoring process and acknowledging the necessary unfoldment in our lives. So when we are able to embrace process, which is another, I put both of these together, the principles and the process together, to basically define journey. It's this methodical process with intention that you're going somewhere. It's a journey. And interesting, the root of the word journey means the distance traveled in a day, which I think is a really neat reflection, because it suggests that the steps are important, that each period, each duration, or each interval of the journey is just as important as the next. So, for example, sometimes or it may be commonly perceived that in order to get in shape, you have to work out, which is, it depends on the shape you mean. But if you want to grow muscles or whatever, you need to work out. And that's true. And the strange part of that is that the only period where your body is actually growing and transforming is when you're not working out. So that suddenly elevates the rest part of the cycle as being very important. So you have the work part, which is the working out part, but you also have the recovery part, which is part of the process. And if you did not honor the recovery part, if you were just like working out nonstop, you would actually go backwards. You would break down, because you wouldn't have allowed all steps of that process to be in place. So the journey here, the way we journey, honors that process and brings a lot of awareness to the process. Like I said, also making contact with the principles of existence, the core things that make things work. So we kind of get this how things work experience, which allows you, the interesting thing is too, because we're looking at a primal level, what that means is it's universal. So it also scales up to any level. So that means if you are becoming aware of the guiding principles and the universal process that's going on at all times in our universe, in our reality, and you understand it at a personal level, it means you will also be able to kind of generalize that into a cultural level. You can see how this process and these principles are at work in your family, in your community, in other people. You can see it in nature. You can see it at the cellular level. Everything is going through kind of honoring these same primal realities. So our journey, this is kind of the deeper end of what we're looking at, but this is where it leads you. It leads you to this place where you're able to actually have kind of a predictive tool. You have a way of having insight into your experience, and I think that's getting close to what is meant by wisdom. So we're learning. You'll be learning a lot of knowledge and having a lot of experiences, and grounding those into an embodied type of knowing, or a wisdom that can predict, in a sense, oncoming patterns. It can make sense out of life, and so to me, that's one of the deeper gifts of our journey program. And so let's see, what else I want to cover tonight. I think it gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of the nuts and bolts and the why we do it, and what we're focusing on. This is something that, regardless of your interests, if you could be an artist, a musician, a scientist, a landscaper, gardener, farmer. It just doesn't matter what your interests are. It will connect to your life path, and it will make you better at whatever you're doing. And one of the things that also, I hope anyway, especially translates to our online experience, is the sense of community that develops when you're able to witness other people going through process and making discoveries and having insights, and then sharing those together. So there's this really powerful kind of debriefing experience that we come together and unite around. And so what that gives us is the ability to grow many times more, or maybe faster, but at least more than just journeying along by yourself, And because you get to learn from everyone's triumphs and everyone's failures, challenges. And as long as we debrief and kind of respect the process, we're able to learn from everything. And this just translates beautifully into your life, So if this is something you might be interested in, this process is available, like I said, online. I'm going to, basically the best way to go about it would be to set up a consultation with me, just a free call. We talk about it and make sure it's something that would be a fit for you, both schedule wise, kind of interest wise, or stage of life wise, and also financially. And then we go from there. And like I said, since it's going to be online, this can be something that you can do at any time and are able to access as you want. You could even do it slower than the recommended pace. You could do it faster. I don't think I'd recommend it, but there's different ways for everyone. The cool thing about having it online too, I think, is we're going to be able to easily refer back to segments and really, instead of just relying on your notes, which is valuable, but you're going to have the ability to look at the stored information and re-listen to lectures and all of that. So I'll have audio versions downloaded too. I find that really helpful for some of this material, to get some repetition. You can put it on your phone or whatever and listen to stuff when you're at work, or however you want to do it. So let's see here. I guess I should have said at the beginning, this comes from a lifetime of study and research of my own. But this isn't something I invented necessarily. This is something I crafted together, which is really standing on top of the shoulders of giants, as they say. So I've really taken since the creation of our core curriculum and looking at the primal template, as I call it. I've taken all of the teachings from my teachers that I could translate into this model, and kind of integrated everything into a doable, accessible process that is as holistic as possible, meaning we try to hold as many perspectives as possible, but also look at as many layers as possible and as many scales as possible. So it's really comprehensive. And then taking my own experience and trial and error, and also in the last 10 years of guiding people through this journey process, and then another 10 years before that of other coaching groups and stuff, and basically pour all that into one experience. That is what the journey is. So it really is the very best of what everything I've been exposed to and everything that we offer here at Tribal Edge, and it creates just a holistic curriculum for life, you know. So I really look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you're interested and maybe want to check this out and join us. And I think with that, I'm gonna let it go. So our schedule and our sign-up information will be posted on the website. If you look up Journey Prime, it'll come up with our online special, which is a real special. It's 50% off of our normal online or normal Prime experience. So it really works out to $75 a month for this training, which is pretty incredible. And that's with a $110 deposit to let me know that you really mean it. And that is also based on 12 payments. So that's a year commitment. But you're able to pause the program and do stuff like that. But anyway, so really think about this, and I hope you contact me if you're interested. Regardless, if the journey doesn't seem like it's quite a fit or what you want to do this year, I have some other options too they might be interested in, which are basically these different segments of the journey I've mentioned. The core classes, the Primal Labs, our whole Hero Lab training, and some other special stuff going on that is going to be available online as well. So you can do things, you know, one thing at a time if you want like that, or you can jump into the journey where we tie it all together and give you a enjoyable, meaningful context for the entire experience. So there it is. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for watching, and I look forward to journeying with you in the near future. Take care and keep going.